Chapter 11, Areas of Polygons. Today we're going to cover Section 11, Day 2. Today's going to deal with irregular shapes. So somehow I have to split them into shapes I know the area of. So if I drew a horizontal line, I could get two rectangles and add those together. Or somebody else might draw a vertical line and get two rectangles and you could add those pieces together. You might cut it both ways and add all three pieces together. Or somebody else might even look at this problem and say, well, I can figure out the area of a large rectangle, subtract off the piece that makes up the corner, and then you'd be left with the L shape. So any of those methods would work just fine. I think I'm going to stick with the one that was the first one and just cut it going horizontally. And I'm going to call this shape 1 and this one shape 2. So if I look at shape 1, I know that the area will equal the base times the height. And the base is 7 and the height is 2. So it's just going to be 7 centimeters times 2 centimeters, which equals 14 centimeters squared. Now for shape 2. I know the area down there is also going to equal base times height. And I see the base, but I don't know what the height is. So I have to look. Well, if the entire height is 5 centimeters, and the top piece is 2 centimeters, then the piece that would be left over for my height is going to be 3 centimeters. So my base times my height will be 3 centimeters times 3 centimeters, which is 9 centimeters squared. And now to get the total area, I just add up the area of the two pieces. And if I add up the area of the two pieces, I get 23 centimeters squared. Let's look at the next shape. So similar to before, I either need to cut this into multiple pieces that I'm going to add together, or in this one, I think I'm going to actually do one big rectangle and I'm going to subtract off this piece that I don't want. So I'm going to call this big shape 1, the shape inside that I'm going to get rid of shape 2. So what's the area of shape 1? Well, I need the base and the height for shape 1. Well, base is 7, height is 5, so I can just multiply those two together. So I'm going to get 7 meters times 5 meters, which is 35 meters squared. And now I need to know what's the area of my second shape. Well, for that shape, I also need to know the base and the height. I don't know what the base is, but I do know that the height is 4 meters. So how can I figure out what the base is? Well, I know that the entire base is 7 meters because it's up on the top. There's 2 meters on the left and 2 meters on the right. So 7 minus 2 is going to leave me with 3 meters for the base that I have. So for mine, the base is 3 meters. So area equals 3 meters times the shape is 4 meters, which is 12 meters squared. And now to get the shape that I want, I don't add these together, but I need to subtract them. So I'm taking the big rectangle minus the piece that I don't want. So 35 meters squared minus 12 meters squared is 23 meters squared. Number 3. So here's an irregular shape. How can we split this one up? I don't know that there's one way better than another, but somehow splitting it into rectangles. I think I'm going to just split it this way, and I think I'm just going to go and split it horizontally this way as well, and call them piece 1, 2, and 3. So I'm going to add up those 3 shapes. You could cut it a bunch of different ways. So if I look at my piece number 1, and I want the area is base times height, I see that I have a base of 10, but I need to figure out how big this height is over here. Well, how big is that? Well, I know that the entire right side is 6, but I need to get rid of this little piece right here. So how big is that piece? I don't see how big that is on the right, so I'm going to go all the way over to the left. So it's really saying, how big is that piece right there? Well, I noticed that on the entire left side is 6. So right over here, this entire left side is 6. And this much over to the right of it is 4. So the difference must be 2. So this piece right here is 2 meters, which means my piece right over here is also 2 meters. So the piece that I wanted all the way back up in shape 1 then, if the entire right side is 6 and I get rid of the 2 on the bottom, must mean that this piece up here is 4 meters. If you would have cut the shapes differently, it might have been easier to find one of the missing dimensions, but these are the ones we have. So shape number 1, we have a base of 10 meters times a height of 4 meters, gives me an area of 40 meters squared. Going to shape 2. Shape 2, I don't know what the base is because I need to know the entire bottom, but I do know that the height is 2 because it's right here off to the right. So how big is the entire base? Well, trying to figure that out. If I look up above, I know that going across the top is 10, and across this little piece over here is 4. So if the tops are 10 and 4, all the way across is going to be a total of 14 meters. So for shape number 2, my area will be base of 14 meters times a height of 2 meters, which gives me an area of 28 meters squared. All right, up to our third shape. Okay. The third shape. This one looks a little bit nicer, and that if I just look, the base is 2 meters and the height is 4 meters. All the information is right there. So 2 meters times 4 meters equals 8 meters squared. Now if I want to find the area of the whole shape, I just total up all the areas. So 40, 28, and 8 is 76 meters squared. Find the area of each rectangle. Well, I know the area of a rectangle is base times height. And I already know that the height is 20, so that's pretty nice. What I don't know is the base. And I can't use any of my shortcuts because I don't see a 30, 60, 90, or 45, 45, 90. It also tells me to give answers to the nearest tenth. So those are both hints that I'm probably going to have to use a trig function. So I'd really like to find out how big this base is. So if I look at from the angle, the 20 happens to be opposite. The base happens to be adjacent. And if I remember my phrase SOHCAHTOA, well, from the 25 I have opposite and adjacent, means I'm going to use the tangent function. So setting up my problem, I get the tangent of a 25-degree angle equals opposite 20 over adjacent b. I know I'm going to end up cross multiplying this, but I need to know what the tangent of 25 degrees is. So let's go to my calculator and figure out what's the tangent of 25, which is 0.4663. And if I cross multiply that, I'm going to get 0.4663b equals 20. Divide each side by 0.4663. I need to figure out what is 20 divided by 0.4663. And I get, I'm going to write 42.89. And I'm not rounding to the nearest tenth yet because I still have some more math to do. So now I can figure out my area. The area is going to be the base, 42.89, times the height, which I know is 20. And then the answer to this is what I will round off to the nearest tenth. So 42.89 times 20, and I don't even have to because it ends up happening for me, is 857.8. And there weren't any units in the problem, so I don't have to worry about units in the answer. All right, next problem looks fairly similar, Notice it doesn't tell me to round anything, and the big reason it's not telling me to round anything is I notice that this is a 30, 60, 90 triangle. And I'm going to just look at the one at the bottom. So here's my 30, 60, 90. I really just want to know what's the height in here so that I can take base times height. Whenever I get these 30, 60, 90 triangles, in my mind, I'm always doubling the 30-degree angle to try to remember how I get the various pieces. So if I go from 10 to the side over here, this is where I need to divide by the square root of 3. So this piece will be 10 divided by the square root of 3. We have to rationalize the denominator, so I multiply top and bottom by square root of 3. I get 10 square roots of 3 over 3. And now I'm going to go to my area formula. So I know that the area of a rectangle is base times height, which is 10 times 10 square roots of 3 over 3. If you want, you can think of the first 10 over 1. When I multiply, I'm multiplying like parts. So I'm really multiplying all of these numbers together, and if I do that, I get, in the numerator, 10 times 10 is 100. In the denominator, I have 1 times 3, which is 3. And the only piece left is the square root of 3, which doesn't have anything else to multiply by, so the square root of 3 portion isn't going to change, and I would just leave the final answer as 100 square roots of 3 over 3. A wooden fence 4 feet high and 260 feet long is to be painted on both sides. What is the total wall area? First I'm going to imagine a little picture here. So here's a fence. It's 260 feet long and it's 4 feet high, and it's going to be painted on both sides. Well, I know that the area is base times height, which is 260 times a height of 4, but then there's 2 sides to it, so I'm also going to take this answer and multiply it by 2. So let's see what we get if we take 260 times 4 times 2. And I get 2,080. And the units on that area would be feet squared. Part B. A gallon of a certain type of paint will cover only 200 square feet of area on the first coat, but on the second coat, a gallon of the same paint will cover 300 square feet. If the fence is to be given 2 coats of paint, how many gallons of paint should be bought? All right, so we have the first coat and the second coat. And let's see how much paint it's going to take for the first coat. Well, I know that the area is 2,080 square feet. And I know that each gallon only covers 200 square feet. So if I divide by 200 square feet, I should figure out how many gallons of paint I would need. So back to my calculator, we'll make it a simple one. So if I take how many square feet I have and I divide it by 200, I get that I need 10.4 gallons of paint. Now for the second coat. Well, the second coat is still going to cover the whole fence, so it still has a total area of 2,080 square feet, but now it covers 300 square feet per gallon. And let's see how many gallons we need for that. So 2,080 square feet divided by 300 square feet per gallon, and I get 6.93 repeating. Well, how much am I going to need all together? I'm going to add these two together. So I'm going to take the answer I already have and add on 10.4, and I get 17.3 repeating.